This is a continuation of the conversation we started last week. A conversation on how to craft a narrative. Now, last week we looked at the ideas behind a narrative that are so powerful, why they speak so deeply into human hearts. We talked about the need and the attraction and the commonality of narratives. We see narratives on the screen, we see narratives in literature, but we're also, each one of us, living out our narrative. We looked at the narrative of Jesus, the narrative in the book of Acts. We talked about Paul relating his narrative whenever he was in a tight situation and needed to communicate the gospel, what God was doing on the earth through his narrative. And that's where we plug in right now. Because your narrative is an explanation of what God is doing, not just in your life, but on the earth. We have many names for that narrative. Sometimes we call it a testimony. Sometimes we just say telling our story. But nevertheless, every leader, whatever you call it, needs to understand that there's a narrative already in motion in their life. Crafting that narrative to be able to explain it will give you a lifeline to pull other people into it. And make no mistake, your narrative needs crafted. And that's one of the assumptions that we're going to make today, that narratives need crafted. The other assumption is that you have a narrative. And some people maybe overestimate their stories or balloon their stories out of proportion. That's not what we're doing. That's actually the opposite of what we want to do. We're not exaggerating these stories. But then on the other hand, there are some people who feel that their story is inadequate. They underestimate the value and the power of their narrative, and we don't want to do that either. Like, how many people are out there, they can't relate with these bold, enormous events that happen in their life, but yeah, they can relate with the person that just says, I had to get up every day and I had to consistently pray and I had to consistently minister to people and just consistently give my life away and just started on this journey, and over time I was able to achieve this and this. Well, maybe your story and the value of your story is in the consistency of your life. Because these assumptions are important. Number one, that you have a narrative that's worth sharing. And that number two, the assumption is that people relate with that and people will buy into that. Now let's talk about some of the elements that are important in crafting a narrative. It's probably something that could be studied over a whole period of time and get into great detail, but let's just get the conversation started with this. Number one, there is a beginning of that narrative. And I think at the beginning of your narrative is really important so that people know that they can relate with you from step one. Like, for instance, if someone's narrative is, well, I was born into a royal family, and then you go on from there, well, not very many people can relate with being born into a royal family. How about this? Born into a normal family. Or how about this? Born into a single parent family. Or maybe starting your journey with $5, $10 in your pocket, but a strong work ethic and a dedication to morals and ethics and a vision and a purpose that you believe that God put in your heart. There's the beginning. So what we're looking for in the beginning is to just give people a realistic view of a humble beginning, how they also, from the same starting point, can actually build their life. Maybe similar to yours, maybe not exactly like yours, but that starting point, that's important. And explain your beginning in a way that people can understand. The second part of your narrative is the journey. And that journey really needs to highlight the challenges, the struggle. Every person relates their life and finds meaning in their life built around the struggles they've overcome. And that's the way God created the world. That's the way that we interact with reality. That's why your narrative needs to include the struggle on the journey. And to be real about these struggles. Some of those struggles are not impossible to overcome. And some of those struggles are just small hills. But people encountering small hills, need to know that you've encountered some small hills. And some of those struggles are like great mountains. People who are encountering great mountains need to know that you have overcome some great mountains. So talk about your struggles. Now, here's the third thing that you can craft into your narrative are the emergent qualities that come about as a consequence of that journey. The emergent qualities that come about as a consequence of making this journey, encountering these challenges and overcoming them. The emergent qualities are those things that you learn. Those are the little gems that come up out of the ground that are valuable. And what you're doing is giving people hope. You're giving people hope that if they can confront their Goliath, there's something good on the other side of that. You're giving people hope that if they have an encounter with God, like Paul did on the road to Damascus, there's something valuable on the other side. The people that feel like that they've been betrayed like Jesus and falsely accused like Jesus. And yeah, okay, they've gone through some serious things like Jesus. And yeah, maybe they feel like that they've had to trudge through a time of hell in their life, but the emergent qualities are those things that you can share on your journey that came out as a result of going through that valley. And you're giving people hope to say, yes, there is something in these emergent qualities that make us unique, that give us purpose, and that give our life meaning. And there is where you bridge into the most important part of your narrative, the invitation. At this point, you have explained your journey from humble beginnings through the challenges you've encountered to the emergent qualities that have come as a result of that journey. These emerging qualities, what are they? Your vision, your purpose, the reason why you exist, the thing that makes your organization unique from all other organizations. And we are unique and we're different because we've had a unique journey. When we come to the invitation, people have already been hooked into your story because we love stories. We love the backstories. We love the bedtime stories. We love the narratives. We love the binge watching of these series. And we love great literature and deep stories with twists and turns. And you've created a narrative that people can relate with. They don't even know why they're relating with it, but they relate with it. And when you enumerate those emergent qualities and you give someone an invitation, you're calling them to action. You're saying, join us. You can buy in with us. And that's where agreement and power and unity take place. And it's a beautiful place to journey with other people as the merging of multiple stories come together until it's not just my story, it's our story. And so let's get this conversation started.